All right, welcome back. Before we get back to Marcellus and the gang, I'd like to address Richard Seymour's recent tweet extolling the partnership between NBA teams and their star players. Seymour, the retired former Patriots defensive end, tweeted, "As a player who was unexpectedly traded days before the season started, I can't help but to be envious of the partnership and relationship between NBA teams and their star players. Seems to be a lot of mutual respect to facilitate deals that both parties are satisfied with. Hashtag respect." Seymour, of course, is referring to Paul George and Anthony Davis forcing Oklahoma City and New Orleans to trade them to Los Angeles. Let me break some news to Richard. Those deals weren't predicated on mutual respect. Brute force caused the Thunder and the Pelicans to make deals they didn't want to do. Had Twitter been around when Suge Knight hung Vanilla Ice over a balcony, I'm sure Seymour would have congratulated Big Suge on the respectful way he fleeced Ice Baby out of $4 million in royalties. Seymour is just one more delusional football player who wishes he was a basketball star and who has swallowed the false narrative that NBA players and owners frequent the same strip clubs and spend all major holidays at the same dinner tables. Anything bad that happens between owners and players in the NBA is an aberration to be ignored. Donald Sterling's 30-year reign as Clippers owner, that was a fluke. The NBA immediately cleaned that up. The minority owner of the Warriors who pushed Kyle Lowry on the sideline, wow, it was a reflex reaction in the heat of an intense NBA Finals series. James Dolan having Charles Oakley escorted out of Madison Square Garden. Look, Dolan is crazy. Everybody knows that. The Warriors' mishandling of Kevin Durant's injured calf. Hey, mistakes happen. The NBA is utopia. Matter of fact, it's better than utopia. It's Wakanda. NBA players can protest all the social media injustices pointed out on Twitter. LeBron can take a knee any damn time he chooses. Well, that's not actually true. Unlike the NFL, the NBA has a hardline rule on protesting during the national anthem. But the players do get to wear cute little T-shirts championing equality during pregame warm-ups. Richard Seymour, like a lot of people, has been brainwashed into believing that NBA grass is greener. It's not. It just has more manure spread across it. Football players need to quit buying the bull manure that the NBA is selling and take pride in the great game they helped build. The culture in the NBA is not superior to the NFL. That's a lie promoted by people who want to diminish the very game that made Seymour rich and famous. Hating the hand that feeds you is a dumb play that's bad for business. Football players need to stop it. All right, Marcellus, Jim Jackson, and TJ Houshmandzadeh, I want to hear what you guys have to say. Does NBA ownership respect its players more than NFL owners?
No, they don't. I think they have a deeper investment, greater partnership that gives the illusion of respect, but it's just because they're getting tugged by that bottom line, and the players in the NBA being closer to that bottom line than we are in the NFL. Let's just be real. The first 24 hours of free agency for the NBA was to the tune of $3 billion in contract terms. It's not what happens in the NFL. So when we talk about partnership and which way do you look at it and which way does it lend itself, you got a greater partnership in your sport just simply because of that bottom line.
I'll go back to when I was part of the union back in 1995 when I first started. We didn't have the superstar power to gain control of anything. So the NBA basically ran shot over whatever they wanted to do. In '98, we kind of got a little bit closer. We held out, but we still didn't have the superstars kind of leading the charge. Once the big guys came in and were a part of the union, okay, that sent a different message. So do the owners respect us even more? Maybe a little bit. They respect the power of the players to come together and do some things differently, okay? Having guaranteed contracts gives you a little bit level of more control than NFL players have, okay? But ask Chris Paul if he feels respected by the owner, by what happened, okay? So it's numerous scenarios that I can paint in the NBA where the ownership is still the ownership. They respect some of the processes that we have to go through in decision-making okay, because the union is strong together and you have your key players, superstars that are leading the charge. But at the end of the day, I don't think it's any more respect. They respect the avenues in which they have to deal with the players. But I don't think from an individual perspective it's higher or lower than what we see in the NFL.
It's the perception. The perception is that, yes, the NBA owners do respect his players more, but it's what you just said. LeBron is so popular, and he's basically shown everybody how to take control of your own career. And because they have guaranteed contracts, you can see Kawhi force his way out of San Antonio. Anthony Davis forced his way out of New Orleans. Paul George, after signing a contract, I don't want to be here no more. I want to go play for the Clippers and get my head beat in, but that's another story.
Whoa. There you go.
And so the perception of it is, I said it earlier, LeBron says, oh, man, we need a longer break after the All-Star game. Adam Silver gives it to him. So the perception is, oh, yeah, they respect their players more, but it's just at the top. It's the best players. I mean, when you look at all the rest of the players, they can't do that. If the 15th guy on the roster says, oh, man, we need a longer break, boy, if you don't shut up. But LeBron says it because his name carries so much weight. Okay, we'll meet you halfway with this one, LeBron. And so it's the best players. It's the less than the 1% of guys that can kind of control their own destiny and do what they want to do.
Anybody here an only child?
No.
Or again, there was just me and my brother. And again, as opposed to a family that may have 6 kids, you may get more attention when there's only 15 of you on an NBA team as opposed to 53. Again, one owner, 53 employees. One owner, 15. You're going to feel more love, particularly at the top, because, again, it's really only 1 or 2 guys on a team where the owner has to have that strong connection, where in football, there's 3, 4, 10 guys that are really critical to you winning or losing. There's just more people to service. And so I just wish, I'm just begging football players, we got to quit hating on this game and quit thinking that the grass is greener every place else. It's the wrong mindset, and it diminishes the great game of football in my mind, because it's just not true. If you really reflect upon what's going on, there's no difference. Again, everybody says, oh, the players in the NBA, they're so free. Well, the NBA has a hard, fast rule on what happens in the national anthem. But everybody thinks the NFL is the league with an iron fist over what the players can and can't do. It's a misperception. It is public perception. It's a misperception.
Yeah, great point. So let's unpack it even further. You said combine some great points I want to just dive into a little deeper. The NBA is losing its middle class. If you notice, no middle class. Top Supermax, Chris Paul, is actually taking a lot of heat right now because as the leader of the Players Association, he looked out for him, the banana boat, and that level of player. Middle class is lost. So veterans, Boogie Cousins, vet minimum. Vet minimum. Even injured, Boogie Cousins is not a vet minimum player, but there's no middle class. Whereas in NFL, there is a middle class to the point where non-elite players are being talked about $30 million. Dak Prescott. He's not upper class in terms of talent and elite, but he's in that high.
Very, very true.
Upper middle class.
Very true. Very true.
You brought up the fact that your executive committee had superstars in the late 90s, early 2000s, which changed the perception, which changed the power dynamic. And I just went and looked at our executive committee as of right now. And I remember when I played, and I played right after the quarterback club, if y'all can remember.
You couldn't even get a quarterback that couldn't get it.
They wouldn't even be a part. Now look at the executive committee right now. We're like, not a single quarterback on the committee.
Drew Brees was the last one to do it.
Right. So the point is, our superstars, and when I played, you know, Tom Brady's still going, but Peyton Manning, those guys had their own kind of separate entity in terms of marketing and how the league treated them. You made an excellent point in the sense of maybe we need to put a little more internal pressure on making our stars a part of this process to help us get even farther.
All right, coming up, Golden Tate just claimed Russell Wilson isn't as good as Matthew Stafford. We'll tell you what's behind the smoke next.